It's been debated the entire week. Would Brett Favre make his NFL record 292nd consecutive start today at Gillette Stadium against the Patriots? And the answer is yes. Happy Halloween, everybody, and welcome to America's Game of the Week. Alongside the Hall of Famer Troy Aikman and Pam Oliver, I'm Tom Brenneman. In 2010 for the Patriots, business as usual. At 5-1, they share the NFL's best record with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're unbeaten at home. In fact, Tom Brady has not lost a regular season game here since the 2006 season. Now, the team he's trying to extend that against today, Troy Aikman, has a lot going on. The Minnesota Vikings. We thought the big story coming in would be Randy Moss's return. Instead, it's all about, was Brett Favre healthy enough to play?
Well, now that we know that Favre is in fact starting, I guess the big question becomes how long will he stay on the field, whether that's because of the ankle or whether it's because of performance, because I do think that Brad Childress is going to have a short leash when it comes to Brett Favre. Now, you look at this game, there's no question the Vikings want to be able to run the ball with Adrian Peterson. However, they're going up against a Patriots defense that has been outstanding the last couple of weeks. Therefore, they're going to have to be able to make some plays in the passing game. I do know this. We've seen this many, many times over the last 20 years when people have counted Brett Favre out. I wouldn't bet against him. I think he'll come out playing well.
For more on Brett Favre, let's check in with Pam.
Well, Tom, Brett Favre did not get a pain-killing shot on that ankle. Athletic trainer Eric Sugarman says it's just a little too risky. He's not comfortable doing that. So Favre will just have to tough it out. Sugarman also said that in all the years of doing this, he has never seen anything quite like it. Brett Favre's recuperative powers. Favre, I'm also told, was a model citizen this week in the training room. He did everything ounce of him. He was very, very focused. Back to you.
All right, Pam, thank you very much. Let's take a look, Troy Aikman, at our starting points. Favre starts. Will he finish? Tavares Jackson took a lot of reps with the first-team offense during the week. Randy Moss, you know about him coming back. And this one is underway as New England will get the football to begin the game. Brandon Tate has returned a pair of kickoffs for touchdowns this year, but he's dropped at the 18-yard line by Eric Frampton. Tom Brady, 33 years old, out of San Mateo, California, has quarterbacked the Patriots to wins in 102 of his 133 career regular season starts. The best career winning percentage of any quarterback during the Super Bowl era. Minnesota won the toss and deferred to get the football to the second half. Then Jarvis Green Ellis on the first play from scrimmage of the afternoon picks up maybe a yard. Temperature just shy of 50 degrees. Troy, you were on the field and said it's very windy down there.
It sure is, and you see the flags there and the wind at 29 miles an hour. Right now, the direction that the wind is blowing, the New England Patriots are going right into the teeth of it.
Brady out of the shotgun on second down and 9 and throws to the far side where it's caught by Tate for a short gain. It brings up 3rd and long. Then Jarvis Green Ellis will get most of the carries out of the backfield. We'll see Danny Woodhead at times. Welker, their leading receiver once again, and up front we'll keep an eye on that matchup between Matt Light and Jared Allen. Allen has not had a sack in his last 4 games. Great protection. And the catch is made by Welker at the 35-yard line, and that'll be a New England first down.
You talked about Jared Allen not being able to get a sack in the last 4 games, and again tonight he's getting single blocked by left tackle Matt Light. You go back to that game last week, and a lot of one-on-one blocking schemes against this defensive front of the Minnesota Vikings, and that's something you just typically had not seen in years past. And the New England Patriots come into this one not giving their left tackle Matt Light any help.
First carry for Woodhead, and this has been a stingy run defense for Minnesota over the last 4 or 5 years. Let's take a look at them defensively. We talked about very little pressure from this very good, if not the best front four in the NFL. E.J. Henderson leads the team in tackles. And in the secondary, Antoine Winfield, joined by Asher Allen on the corners, Medayu Williams, and a healthy Hussein Abdullah are the safeties. Pump fake. Woodhead is dropped at the 42-yard line. It'll bring up another third down.
Talked about coming into this game, not betting against Brett Favre in this situation. And as you said, Tom, 23 straight wins for Tom Brady here at Gillette Stadium. He's a hard one to bet against as well. And a little bit of a transitional year for him. Of course, a couple of weeks ago, as we well know, the trade here to the Minnesota Vikings with Randy Moss. They're coming at it a little bit differently offensively this year. Not as much 3 wide receiver sets, more 2 wide receiver with the young rookies.
Direct snap to Woodhead. Penalty flag on the far side of the field. His carry takes it to the 50 for a first down, but we wait on the penalty flag.
Illegal motion, number 82, offense, 5-yard penalty, still third down.
That's a 10-year veteran who was just named a Patriots team captain during the bye week, Algie Crumpler.
Well, I think the fact that they named him captain says, what he means to this team. Kevin Falk was the captain, and then when he went down, Bill Belichick appointed that position to Algie Crumpler for a guy who's predominantly a blocker within this offense. He's well respected within that locker room.
3rd and 7, they fake it one way, come back the other way. And Brady thrown to the deck under heavy pressure for the first time today. New England will punt.
Well, and that's what they've got to do. I know, visiting with Leslie Frazier, the defensive coordinator, he said, hey, look, we have got to be able to get pressure. Now, that time they brought Ben Lieber, off the edge, but this is a defense that's predicated on their defensive line. Ray Edwards, Jared Allen, Kevin Williams, Pat Williams, those guys getting pressure on the quarterback, something they've been unable to generate.
Zoltan Mesko with a very short punt. Greg Camarillo will let it roll, and it takes a favorable bounce for the Patriots. 51-yard punt, so here he comes, number 4. 41-year-old Brett Favre, who makes his NFL record 292nd consecutive regular season start. So some boos for Favre. I would imagine a lot of them are directed at number 84, Randy Moss. They cheered Randy Moss for the last 3+ years.
They should be cheering him today, too.
Good start for Adrian Peterson on first down. He's up to the 23-yard line, tackled by Vince Wilfork.
I thought it was interesting in talking with Brett Favre yesterday, Tom. He said that as of yesterday afternoon, he had not yet been told by anyone as to whether or not he was going to be starting this game. And I don't know when exactly it was he got word today.
Back-to-back carries for Peterson. And that's good enough for a first down. It's up to the 24-yard line. So many weapons still on this Minnesota team despite all of their troubles with a 2-4 record. Peterson arguably the game's best back. Randy Moss has been added to the mix. The dynamic Percy Harvin, along with a tight end Shanko, and up front, a veteran group, a solid group. John Sullivan returned to the center position last week. An easy first throw for Favre, and it's caught by Tahi out of the backfield up to the 31. Defensively, it's a New England team with a lot of very young players, and they're giving up a lot of yards. Brandon Dederick starts for the 3rd straight game. Linebacking core, a pair of rookies there, and Spikes and Cunningham, both out of the University of Florida. And unable to go today, Patrick Chung, who injured his knee last week in San Diego. So James Sanders starts in place of Chung. Peterson appears to be about a half-yard shy of the first down.
Now, I know in talking with Brett yesterday and how his ankle was feeling, he said if you would have told me I would have been able to practice on Friday early in the week, I would have said you were crazy, because he was obviously very, very sore after that game last week against the Packers. But as the week progressed, it got a little bit easier for him to move around on it. He said he wasn't limping nearly as much, did not have nearly as much pain, and expected to be able to come into this game and not have to make any real adjustments to his style of play. Of course, he's made some modifications to his left shoe that he's wearing. He's going with a size 15 cleat. Typically, he wears a size 14, and that's because of some extra padding that he has in there. But overall, pretty remarkable that he's been able to come back with 2 fractured bones and play in this game. And for those of us that have known Brett Favre as long as we have, did you really think 2 fractured bones was really going to keep him out of the football game?
It truly is amazing. So you saw the measurement, good enough for a first down on the reception by Peterson. Peterson carries up to the 40. That'll be a gain of 7 yards for Adrian Peterson, the 25-year-old out of Palestine, Texas.
You're going to see Vince Wilfork right here, number 75. You know, he over the years has been the nose tackle, and he's a real force in there, and typically you've got to put 2 blockers on him, but in recent weeks they've been moving him out to defensive end. What the Patriots like to do is find the matchup where they think he can be most disruptive. Today it's at the nose tackle position once again over John Sullivan.
4th carry of the game by Peterson. And it's about a yard short of a first down. 3rd and 1 upcoming for Minnesota. Bill Belichick in his 11th year with the New England Patriots, and numbers are just simply staggering. Better than a .700 winning percentage. He's won 3 Super Bowls and 4 conference titles. It's the first time all year long Peterson on 3rd and a yard has been denied. He was a perfect 7 for 7, but Gerard Mayo and Mike Wright came up to meet him for a loss.
Well, Gerard Mayo's averaging about 12 tackles a game, and the guy's just a football player. You're going to see him here. He's going to scrape off the edge, and he's reading flow, and they are able to slow Adrian Peterson up in the hole, and then Mayo's able to meet him before he gets anything going. That's just an excellent job right there on 3rd and short, denying the first down, because that's an area of this defense where they have really struggled this year.
Chris Cluey on the punt, a booming kick will sail into the end zone. Well, the marriage, if you will, of Bill Belichick and Tom Brady has been just simply remarkable. The winningest quarterback head coach tandems going back to 1970. Mike Ditka and Jim McMahon. The great John Madden and the Snake, Kenny Stabler. But look at those numbers, Troy Aikman.
Well, you look at that, and you know, a lot of people would say, hey, you know, Bill Belichick is fortunate to have Tom Brady, and all great coaches are. I mean, all those guys had great quarterbacks, but I think Tom Brady's fortunate to have Bill Belichick as well. And the reason I say that is because the guy has done a remarkable job, including this year, of reloading the talent when he's needed to.
Brady under heavy pressure for a 2nd straight throw, this time by Ray Edwards.
On top. Tom, Troy.
Thanks, Kurt. Catch made by Woodhead out of the backfield. He's up to the 27-yard line. It'll bring up 3rd down and 3 for the Patriots, their 2nd possession.
Well, the Vikings are trying to do what they can to get pressure on Tom Brady, obviously, and you got Ray Edwards who's going down low. I don't think there should have been a flag called there. You got him diving for him, just trying to get him to the ground, but that was a real emphasis this week. In fact, Leslie Frazier spent time with Jared Allen dissecting his play.
Dangerous throw there by Brady. He's lucky that wasn't taken the other way by Asher Allen. It's 3 and out for New England.
There's a good look at Leslie Frazier, the defensive coordinator, and overall they've been pretty good. Now they're coming off a game last week where they gave up a season high 379 yards to the Green Bay Packers, but they've done a good job even with the turnovers that their offense has had of keeping people out of the end zone.
Blown dead before Mesco put a foot on it.
Before the snap, false start, number 38, offense, 5-yard penalty, still 4th down.
You go back to the Minnesota game on Sunday night. Brett Favre threw the 3 interceptions, broke a bone in his ankle, broke another bone in his heel on a tackle by A.J. Hawk. They nearly pulled it off the final drive of the game. Percy Harvin was just out of bounds. They had 3 touchdowns taken away on review. And then some of the comments made by Childress after the game about Favre igniting a very big story in Minnesota about the relationship between the head coach and the quarterback. Mesco's punt will be marked at the 24-yard line.
Tom, and all of that really seems pretty strange for me. I mean, you consider the year that Brett Favre had last year. He obviously played a huge role in this team making it all the way to the NFC Championship game, and because of that, Brad Childress got a huge contract extension. He missed all of the offseason, and then they went and got him, as we know, in Mississippi and brought him back, and he became the starter again. And granted, he has not played very well. But to now try to hold Brett Favre to the standard of every other player and say, hey, if he's not playing well, we're going to bench him. Well, he's never been held to the standard of every other player because he's been treated special ever since he came here to Minnesota. And I think when they went and got him from Mississippi, it was, hey, this is going to be our guy, and we're riding him through good and bad, and it's just the way that it is. So I was surprised that there was so much indecision this week as to what the situation is with Favre. It extended beyond his physical health. I mean, there was questions as to, last week, Brad Childress said that he considered putting him on the bench. We do know that Brett Favre's never missed a start. I would also because of performance.
Well, this becomes such a critically important game. Really, this entire month, only one win for Minnesota. That was a game you and I did 2 weeks ago over Dallas. And they're hoping to find a way as the schedule lightens considerably after this game here tonight to get back in the thick of things in the NFC North. Second possession for the Vikings. No score in the opening quarter. Peterson for a yard.
Of course, Randy Moss comes into this game, and there's no doubt he wants to have a big impact. And you see, they've got a safety right here over the top, and they're going to give help. In fact, Randy Moss has said that he doesn't anticipate being able to get any balls down the field. And he hasn't really been able to here over the last couple of weeks anyway while he's been in Minnesota. The last 2 games, his longest reception is only 18 yards. But he's going to have to be very patient in this one.
Percy Harvin, the second-year standout out of the University of Florida, and he is slow to get up. On a first down reception, tackled at the 46-yard line. Oh my, that's one of the worst things that Brad Childress and Viking fans could think about. An injured Percy Harvin.
Well, you lose a guy like him, what you're losing is a dynamic player that has big playability. There's just not many other guys on this roster that can provide that type of yardage and that type of home run threat. That's exactly where it was that he had the injury.
Harvin needs help getting off the field.
Well, there's not a lot there when you look at that and say, okay, well, where exactly did the injury occur? But the way that he's coming off the field, you can tell he's in obvious pain. If it's that left ankle or...
Harvin is such a dynamic player. Leads him in receiving. 25 catches, that being his 26th. He's, of course, run back a kickoff for a touchdown this year. He's even carried the ball in the backfield.
Well, that's right, and he has such a large package within this offense that a big part of the offense now will be taken out if Harvin's unable to come back and play.
Peterson has the second most rushing yards in the NFL to Ahmad Bradshaw, the Giants, but that's only because he's played one less game. As they look at Harvin on the Minnesota sideline. Straight ahead, hard running from the powerful Peterson, and that's a first down to the Patriots 41.
Well, you can tell right now Minnesota, they're wanting to try to take the load off of Brett Favre and run the football, and this isn't anything new. I mean, Adrian Peterson came out this week and said, hey, I can carry the load. You know, if Favre can't drop back and do the things that we need him to do, then give me the ball and let me see what I can do. And there's going to be some tough sledding, but last couple of runs, he's been able to get some nice yardage.
Another 5-6 yards for Peterson on a first down carry. Second possession of the game for Minnesota. A completion moments ago to Percy Harvin, and he was helped off the field. They're looking at his left ankle.
Well, they're retaping him, and based on the way he looked there, it would appear that he's going to try to come back into this game.
First carry for the rookie Toby Gerhardt, and he's dropped for a 1-yard loss. It brings up third down for Favre and the Vikings in a scoreless game. 3 minutes to play in the opening quarter. Retaping that left ankle.
Yeah, I think the simple fact that they didn't take him into the locker room to get any type of x-rays or anything like that, and now the retaping of the ankle, that's a positive sign.
Crossing pattern to Bernard Berrien, and that is a Minnesota first down to the 27-yard line. Berrien, I'm not even sure you'd call him a well-kept secret, but he's been a minuscule part of this Minnesota offense.
Man coverage, he's on a crossing route, and you see the traffic, but he just comes across and makes for an easy reception. They're trying to get this ball snapped before a review can take place as to whether or not Berrien caught it. We saw it come out at the end of the play.
Boy, is this guy something. Peterson. Fifth fastest player to hit the 5,000-yard career rushing mark in NFL history.
You know, good job up front. You got Steve Hutchinson and then John Sullivan right here in the middle, the left guard and center, and they're going to double team right there on Vince Wilfork, and that's what created the lane. Brian McKinney blocking out his guy, and had a nice lane there for Adrian Peterson.
On 2nd and 2, it's a first down run for Peterson to the Patriots' 11-yard line.
You know, I've talked a lot about it, Tom, over the years, that you see the offenses that are having success, and they're usually operating at a pretty good pace, and they get in and out of the huddle, and we know that the Vikings have been struggling. But here today in this first quarter, they're doing a nice job of dictating tempo and getting in and out of the huddle and getting plays run, starting to develop some confidence here on this drive.
Peterson tried to cut it back to the inside, was met by Brandon Spikes.
Well, the one thing about this New England defense, they're a young group, as we know. They started the game today with 3 rookies. And in a lot of ways, it's a transitional year for them, and it's a growing year for them because Bill Belichick basically puts in an entirely different defensive scheme each and every week. But they don't give up big plays, and they make offenses go the distance against them.
Favre moving pretty well. And it's deflected in the back of the end zone. The intended receiver was Lewis, and a flag is down. It may have been a late hit on Favre.
Well, it looked to me like it might have been a helmet-to-helmet on Brett Favre.
Foul, roughing the passer, number 59, defense. Contact to the quarterback's head.
Could have had a face mask call there, but you're going to see at the end of this play, once Favre breaks contain, and Gary Guyton there leads with the helmet, and that's what drew the flag. The referee was right there to make that call. You see Gary Guyton, he lowers the helmet, comes in with the crown of the helmet. Probably looked worse than it really was because Favre was given ground when he let that one loose, but an easy call.
First and goal for the Vikings. Peterson right up the gut, sniffing the end zone. Still waiting for the official signal. Vikings looking around, waiting for a touchdown, but it's just short.
Well, I'll tell you, right guard Anthony Herrera does a heck of a job of shielding his man, and that was close right there as to whether he got across the goal line.
That's the end of the first quarter. Fox NFL Sunday back after a message from your local Fox station. First play of the second quarter, and Minnesota trying to make it a scoring play. Second and goal at the 1. Peterson leaps into the air, and that's a touchdown for Adrian Peterson. 13 first quarter carries.
Well, that's a heck of a drive right there by the Minnesota Vikings, taking the ball from their own 24-yard line and going 76 yards with a lot of Adrian Peterson.
I wonder, is Belichick thinking about throwing the flag, and he'll throw it. He wants it reviewed. It looked very, very close. It appeared actually on the first down carry, on the final play of the first quarter, that Peterson got into the end zone. And here it's very close.
Challenging the ruling on the field of a touchdown.
Big hit by Gerard Mayo. So the judiciary convenes. Play on the field, the call on the field has been challenged by Bill Belichick. Did Adrian Peterson get into the end zone?
Well, from what we saw, Tom, it looked like he did not. You're going to see Mayo come in right there with the contact, and that's a heck of an angle right there to be able to review that, and I think he comes up short. It's a good challenge there by Bill Belichick.
During the play, the ruling on the field stands. New England will be charged with a second timeout.
Maybe it wasn't such a good challenge. Actually, I thought it showed that he came up short, but here's Gerard Mayo, who comes in and gives him the shoulder, and from the angle that we saw, it looked to me like the ball did not cross the plane.
Of course, that's one challenge now remaining for Bill Belichick. He loses a timeout by challenging here.
You know, going back to the whole challenge situation, I just don't think the coach should have to be responsible for reviewing plays to make sure that officials got calls right. I just disagree with that premise.
Going after is good by Ryan Longwell. 12 plays, 76 yards. Favre and the Vikings out to an early lead in Foxborough. Highs and lows on the scoring drive for New England. Of course, Minnesota rather, going 76 yards and scoring on a touchdown. But on the drive, an injury to Percy Harvin, who did not return after they taped up his left ankle. Some kind of injury either to the ankle or the foot. Second quarter just underway, and Brandon Tate is wrapped up at the 25-yard line. Slow start for Brady and the Patriots. They'll try and change that when we return. Well, happy Halloween, everybody. The Patriots encourage youngsters to dress up in their Halloween attire. If the grown-ups want to do the same, so be it. First down carry by Green Ellis, and he's tripped up by Ray Edwards. Pam, what's going on with Percy Harvin?
Well, Tom, Percy Harvin had to watch that Vikings score the touchdown from the vantage point of the bench because Harvin does indeed have an ankle injury, although nothing more specific than that has been given. Percy Harvin's return is questionable. Back to you.
All right, Pam, thanks so much. Harvin getting up, trying to move around alongside the Patriots sideline. A second down throw for Brady. Green Ellis for a first down up to the 35.
You know, we talk about Minnesota and their tempo and how they kind of quicken things up there on that last possession. Going back to last week with these New England Patriots, they really struggled there in that first half against San Diego. You know, under 40 yards of offense there in the first half. And in the second half, they went to a little bit of a no-huddle. Really kind of ignited that group, and wouldn't be surprised if they struggle at all here, if maybe they try something like that again.
Hard to run against this Minnesota defense. It is a stout group and has been for a long time.
Well, they sure have been, and it's a group that really prides itself on being able to stop the run. And I know coming into this game, they rank 11th in run defense, which is not very good by their standards, but yet they're holding opposing teams to a lower run per carry average than what they did a year ago when they were second in the National Football League in run defense.
Bouncing off a tackle and running out of bounds inside Minnesota territory at the 42-yard line is Deion Branch.
Well, you see Wes Welker, 83. He comes out. They got the slip screen, and they were initially in a pretty good position there to make the play. The rookie, Chris Cook, he's just not able to wrap up Deion Branch. And you know, Branch, he's had some injuries in his past. Of course, he rejoined the team a few weeks ago, but he just doesn't quite have the burst that I'm used to seeing him have.
Fake the end around, throw down the middle of the field, and in and out of the hands of the defender, and then caught at the 10-yard line by Brandon Tate. It looked like Medeo Williams had picked it off.
Well, and he should have. He comes under this because Brady throws a flat ball rather than get some air under it and lead Tate to the corner. Tom tries to throw a line drive in there, and Medeo Williams should have made an easy interception. Great concentration there by Brandon Tate. It just went right through the arms of Medeo Williams. How he didn't, you know, one thing not to catch it, but to not even knock the thing down.
A challenge comes in just prior to the snap from the Minnesota sideline. From Brad Childress. Of course, many wondered why he did not challenge a call against Green Bay last week.
On the field of a completed catch.
And he will challenge this one.
I don't know about that challenge.
Having a hard time understanding exactly what it is Brad Childress challenges here.
After reviewing the play, the ruling on the field is confirmed. It is a catch, and Minnesota will be charged with its first timeout.
You know, Brad was questioned pretty good last week for not challenging the touchdown against Green Bay that Andrew Corliss had. And had he have challenged it, it would not have been a touchdown. Of course, he lost a challenge that Green Bay made against him on the touchdown to Visante Shenko. I think right now Brad Childress is a little gun-shy with this whole whether he should challenge or not challenge. But, you know, from the time we first saw it, there was nothing there to indicate that he had not caught the ball.
Green Ellis for a couple of yards. It brings up second down as New England tries to tie this game.
Well, that play to Brandon Tate that we saw, that was one of the few big plays that we've really seen from New England here this year. They just have not had a lot of big plays, and you go back to 07, man, that's all you saw each and every week, and they just have not been the big play offense that they once were.
Walker tries to put a move on Antoine Winfield. Winfield able to wrap him up and make the tackle at the 3-yard line, and Brady took a hit.
Yeah, right at the end of the play, he just kind of gets rolled up a little bit. You see it right there at the very end, but if that's the worst of your day, it's a pretty good day.
This Minnesota defense has not had a sack in their last 2 games after leading the league in that category a season ago. Timeout. That's the final timeout of the half taken by New England, losing one, of course, on a challenge. Happy Halloween, everybody. Welcome back to Foxborough. Minnesota with a 7-0 lead. 10:28 to play until halftime. 3rd and 2 for New England at the Vikings 3-yard line. Direct snap to Woodhead. Touchdown, New England. Second rushing touchdown this season since Danny Woodhead was picked up by the Patriots.
Yeah, good job right in the middle there by Dan Cope in the center, and then left guard Dan Connolly, and a direct snap, as you said, to Woodhead, and what an impact he has made since joining this team.
Gostowski with a point after to tie it. Seven game, 10:25 to play until halftime. And Percy Harvin is set to return this kickoff. For those of you perhaps just joining us, Harvin injuring his left ankle on a reception on Minnesota's last scoring drive, and this one kicked out of bounds. Well, that has not been the MO for Gostowski this year. He's been among the league's best in pinning the opposition deep and in touchbacks. The kind of game perhaps we expected. You talked about Adrian Peterson carrying the load, and that he very much has done so far.
Yeah, he sure has. And again, this is against a defense that has been awfully good against the run. I mean, it was a great drive there by Minnesota to go down and get the touchdown, but an excellent job then of New England answering that. And then they had a 75-yard drive of their own.
Favre is hit on 4 of 4 for 40 yards. They'll give it to Toby Gerhart, and he stopped for a 1-yard loss. Harvin running well into the open field, crosses the 50, and run out of bounds at the 45-yard line.
Well, I guess that answers the question as to how the ankle is. I guess now instead of running a 4.2, he's running a 4.25 because he sure looked good the way he was able to get across the field on this particular play, and we talked about it at the time of the injury. What a dynamic player, and you come into a game with a package of being able to move him around, line him up in the slot, line him up outside. Recently he's been playing a lot in the backfield, swinging out, catching the ball, running the ball. That's a huge part of your offense if he's not on the field.
Gerhart to the 42, a pickup of 2, maybe 3, tripped up by Brandon Spikes, and there's a penalty flag down on the Patriots sideline.
illegal formation offense. Number 81 was covering up number 85. It's a 5-yard penalty. First down.
That's Shenko, the tight end.
Yeah, it's the second time on, no, maybe not. But yeah, Visante Shenko, I mean, anytime you have those types of pre-snap penalties, those are the ones that you just really have to be able to eliminate from your offense.
Well, much has been made of all the Minnesota turnovers. The Vikings turned it over 18 times all of last year. 15 already this year. Randy Moss still without a reception. And Favre throws it into the ground, and a flag comes in for grounding. Rob Ninkovich was all over him.
Well, you got to, one, see if Favre got outside the pocket. I don't think he did. And then even if he did, you've got to get the ball past the line of scrimmage, and I don't think he did that either. You know, so he didn't qualify in either one.
Intentional grounding, number 4 offense. Spot of the foul. Be a loss of down. It's second down.
You know, Favre wanted to come to his left side. He had Randy Moss. Randy got jammed coming off the line of scrimmage and had nowhere to go with the ball. And when he came back to his right side, there wasn't even a receiver out in the route.
After the OT tonight, game 4 of the World Series. I know you'll be at game 5 tomorrow night.
I can't wait.
Screen to Gerhardt with some blocking in front of him and a pretty nice pickup to the 48. It brings up third down and long.
You can see Brandon Merriweather right here. He's about 20 yards deep. That is very deep for a safety to be playing, given help. And then you've got the help, you know, right there by McCourty jamming up on Moss off the line of scrimmage. But the one thing that New England is not going to do, and as I said, that's what Randy Moss anticipated, was they're not going to give up the big play. They'll let them catch the things underneath.
Third and 12, they blitz. Across the middle, catch is made, but far short of a first down by Bernard Berrien. And it's out of field goal range. So the Vikings will punt in this 7-7 game. Not a bad start, however, for Favre. They haven't gone down the field very much. A lot of short throws. 7 of 8 for 74 yards.
Well, they're being real careful in what it is that they're doing. You know, Brad Childress said after the game, and he said it again during the week, hey, there's nothing wrong with punting the ball once in a while. And he was referring to the interceptions that Favre threw last week.
Kluwe with good hang time. Walker, a fair catch at the 7. We're tied at 7. Just outside the stadium, the Hall of Fame exhibit at Patriot Place, celebrating the 25th anniversary of their 1985 AFC Championship team on display. We went through it, Troy, on Friday, and what a spectacular job they did.
Boy, they sure did. Bob Kraft was kind enough to take us on a personal tour, and my first chance to see it. I know that Mr. Kraft and his family are awfully proud of it, as they should be. It is dynamic, and if you're in the area and attend a game, you owe it to yourself to go take a look.
Patriots wearing their throwback uniforms from that 1985 team. Mr. and Mrs. Kraft. Well, since buying his team in 1994, it's been an amazing success. Down the sideline, and Brady missed a wide-open Deion Branch, who had beaten Asher Allen down the sideline.
I got to tell you, even though they weren't able to complete that pass, you talk about protection in the pocket. I mean, Tom Brady had all day to throw it, and then you say, okay, well, what's happening down the field? Just a pretty good job there. You know, and that's what's been amazing is the coverage on the back end. I mean, when you talk about how little pass pressure there has been by this Minnesota defensive front, and you would expect then for this pass coverage to be giving up a lot more yardage than they have been. They've been holding up awfully well considering the time that these quarterbacks have had.
Hurry-up offense for Brady and the Patriots, which led all that success to start the second half last week in San Diego on a 3rd and 8. And he's pressured this time. It's not a sack. But Brian Robinson made contact with Brady just as he threw. So now New England punts from its own end zone.
That's a nice job defensively by Minnesota. And now's an opportunity for Minnesota to get good field position. And, that was going to be the key coming into this game. In fact, Bill Belichick talked about it during the week, that field position, as it is oftentimes in games, going to be extremely important. And with that stop, Minnesota should get good field position here.
Well, what a pickup Zoltan Mesko has been, the rookie punter out of Michigan. And Camarillo is wrapped up at the 43. Well, tonight, Game 4 of the World Series. The Rangers trying to tie it after getting a win. The franchise's first ever World Series win last night. San Francisco a 2-1 lead, and coverage begins tonight after football in high definition only on Fox.
Yeah, and how about our booth tech, Ben Altop? Walk in here today, and he's dressed like Brian Wilson, and wearing a T-shirt for Halloween, Fear the Beard.
And dyed his beard.
And dyed his beard black. That guy's been phenomenal, huh?
Oh, man. But you'll have a chance to be there tomorrow night. Have a good time.
I will.
Play action. Favre looks down the field, and wide open is Harvin. Harvin's third catch of the afternoon.
Yeah, all they did was run Harvin on a little deep cross and versus the zone defense, and nobody, you see the linebackers off of play action, they hit it. And it created just a huge void then in front of the safety, Brandon Merriweather.
Well, certainly this New England defense has been vulnerable to the passing game. Peterson inside the 40, down to the 37-yard line. Second down upcoming. It's been an interchangeable parts, very flexible sort of defense. Troy, you brought up earlier, they're putting in game plans, changing personnel so frequently as New England. Some of the numbers may not look all that great as far as yards allowed, passing yards allowed, but they've gotten better and better with each progressing week.
Well, and I think that'll continue because they've got a lot of young players that are being taxed based on what they have to know each week.
Great protection. And again underneath, it's Harvin. He takes a hit from Merriweather, but gets a first down to the 28-yard line.
Well, you see Minnesota doing a good job protecting Brett Favre, which obviously is important. He's not going to be able to move around because of that ankle. And Percy Harvin finishes this run off pretty well. Brandon Merriweather, as we know, a couple of weeks ago, fined by the NFL because of the big hit. And he will come up and lay some lumber on you. But Percy Harvin was still able to pick up the first down.
10,000th pass attempt in the career of Brett Favre, just another record which he holds all time. Rolling right and right back to the middle of the field. This one to Shanko, close to another first down. Second down and a yard in a 7-7 game, 3:30 to play until halftime. Peterson, a first down and more to the Patriots 10. Got a big block from Jeff Dugan.
You go back to that last play when they rolled Favre out, and he's laboring a little bit as you would expect, and he makes a nice throw and he's able to get outside the pocket, but you could tell as he was coming back that there's some real discomfort. On this run here to pick up this first down to Adrian Peterson, this offensive line is doing a good job, and they're running for the most part right into the teeth of this defense and Vince Wilfork right over the nose.
Seventeenth carry already of the game by Peterson, and this time he runs into Spikes and Wilfork.
Boy, Wilfork, he is obviously a big body, and he's been an outstanding player. But when they started moving him around a few weeks ago and playing him out at defensive end, he's really been able to give this defense something from that position. And then they started working Gerard Warren over the nose tackle, and they interchange those guys. I mean, they have to be able to play all the positions, and that's one of the reasons why they've been as good as they have been in recent weeks against the run.
Empty backfield, 4-man rush. Pump fake. And Favre throws it away. 3rd and goal. We have reached the 2-minute warning. Favre and the Vikings trying to recapture the lead. See, over half the plays run by Minnesota offensively have occurred in New England territory at just 7 points. 3rd and goal. Gerhardt trying to get to the end zone. And he is denied. Decision time now for Brad Childress. This would be 4th and goal from inside the 1. They're going for it.
Yeah, and I don't blame them either. They got a chance here to, with a 7-7 game. I don't disagree with this call whatsoever. I thought it was a pretty good job of Brett Favre not forcing anything down the field at 3rd and goal and dumping it off to Gerhardt and allowing him to get the yardage that he was able to get.
Well, Favre is going to let some of the clock wind down. And it appears he'll take a timeout.
Yeah, you're going to see Gerhardt here. He's going to run. First, he's going to check the defensive end, and that's why nobody really picked him up. The linebackers were so worried about getting deep, as they should, because they didn't want to give up the touchdown. But that's why Gerhardt had so much room to run. And this is kind of what they've been doing to Randy Moss. They jump out Tully Banacane, the linebacker. He's going to try to get a look on Randy Moss. They've got a corner there in Kyle Arrington, and then he also has safety help. Now they go Moss in the slot, and they're going to work Gerard Mayo his way as well. But every time that Randy Moss has lined up, there's been 4 sets of eyes at least, or 2 sets and then 3 at times. Is that right?
2 plus
4
2.
and 6. There's been 2 people and sometimes 3 people looking at him.
I know that look of desperation. All right, earlier in the game, we talked about on 3rd and a yard this season, Minnesota was 7 for 7 giving the ball to Peterson. On a 3rd and 1 earlier in the game, New England stopped it. Now it's 4th and goal inside the 1.
I'd be surprised if Peterson doesn't get it.
He gets it. And doesn't get there. The 2 rookie Florida Gators standing tall, Brandon Spikes and Jermaine Cunningham.
Yeah, that's just an excellent job right there by New England. You're going to see the push on the right tackle, Phil Lodeholt. Watch right here and the pressure that comes right into the backfield to where Adrian Peterson just has nowhere to go with the ball. It was an excellent job right there. It was Ron Brace who was lined up over Phil Lodeholt, who held him up. And then once you get stopped there and you start trying to find a hole down around that goal line, you just have no chance.
So 1:02 left until halftime. We're still tied at 7. And the Patriots, without any remaining timeouts, just going to take a knee. Coming up, it'll be the Visa halftime report, where Kurt, Terry, Howie, and Jimmy will be along with all the scores and highlights, and the Fox Sports ticker will have all the latest statistics, including the mess in Dallas. Losers at home again today. What is the mood in your hometown?
Not good. Not good. To be knocked out of playoff contention and you haven't even got out of the month of October, pretty disappointing year for them.
Well, here we are as the final seconds tick off of this first half. We wondered, would Brett Favre make the start? He has. What would be the impact of Randy Moss? Not a single catch in the first half. And the 2-4 Vikings in a 7-7 tie with the 5-1 Patriots. Stay tuned for the Visa halftime report. Coming up after these messages and a word from your local Fox station. Seven game set to begin the second half here in Foxborough at Gillette Stadium with Troy Aikman and Pam Oliver. Tom Brenneman, great to have you with us, and happy Halloween. Like a couple of fighters feeling each other out through the first half, Minnesota deferred on the opening kickoff, so they'll get the ball to begin the second half. Do you expect to maybe open it up a little bit more?
Well, I think Jimmy Johnson made a great point there at halftime that both of these teams have come in, and it looks like they're just trying not to make a mistake, especially there with the Minnesota Vikings. But, not coming away with points, big momentum shift there before the end of the first half.
Well, we invite you to follow your favorite team all season long. Go to itunes.com/NFL. Brady and the Patriots, a 5-1 record, well aware that the team which they were tied with atop the AFC North, or the AFC East, I beg your pardon, lost earlier today, being the Jets. The leaders of the AFC North, the Steelers, are also 5-1 like the Patriots. Percy Harvin returns a very short kick up to the 29-yard line. We look inside some of the numbers from the first half where Minnesota ran it extremely well. In so many areas, they've dominated, but it's still a 7-7 game.
Yeah, I think that number right there, when you look at time of possession and the Vikings, for the most part, 2-1 advantage. That'll pay dividends if that continues throughout this second half. They're running the ball a lot with Adrian Peterson, as we saw, 18 carries there in the first half, and that'll start to wear this defense down.
And he'll get it for a 19th time. And leaps over a would-be tackler. Let's check in downstairs with Pam Oliver.
Well, Tom, I heard one Minnesota player complaining about, we keep giving them life, and we have to stop doing that. I spoke to Brad Childress, got his assessment of Brett Favre's play in the first half. He said he's playing with great command so far. He also said the week of preparation and the week of treatment really kind of set this whole thing up for Favre to be able to go out there and do something. Back to you.
Pam, thank you very much. Brett Favre, of course, back in May, had ankle surgery. Decided to come back for a second year with Minnesota. He's been battling tendonitis in his right elbow the entire year. Mired in an investigation, of course, by the NFL over inappropriate conduct in his lone year with the New York Jets. And now playing with a broken bone in his heel, another in his ankle, but makes a start, completes a pass here to Greg Lewis. The only two incompletions for Favre in the game, one an intentional grounding penalty, and the other one he threw out of the back of the end zone intentionally.
Well, he's been amazingly efficient throughout the first half, and they really haven't asked him to have to do a lot. He's made some nice throws. We've seen the throws to Percy Harvin, in the intermediate zones, but a lot of quick passes, get the ball out, and try to keep him from getting hit as much as possible. As Brad Childress said yesterday, we're not going to be running a lot of 7-step drops with Brett Favre. The idea is 5-step drops and get it out. And that's what they've been able to do.
Inches short of a first down. See, 14 times he's dropped back. And really has not been hit hard.
Brad Childress and him had a conversation on Friday, and I guess Brad was talking to him about the things that he wouldn't be able to do, the bootlegs, the scrambling, things of that nature. And I think Brett got a little offended by that. He says, hey, I know what I can do. You let me figure out what I can do. I know my body. And it's remarkable. We talked about it before. The fact that he shows up each and every week to play.
They've been stopped twice, 3rd and a yard, 4th and a yard. And it looks like Peterson, on a second effort, was able to pick up the first down this time. And they'll move the chains. Well, wait a minute, after it is the first down.
Yeah, Gerard Warren, he got in there and did a pretty nice job coming off the block there and makes good contact with Adrian Peterson, but that just shows you the power and the strength of Adrian Peterson. This guy, you said it. I mean, he's a freak. I mean, you talk about speed and quickness, but then with that, rarely do you combine that with great power. I mean, he has it all. The only thing he doesn't do a lot of is catch the ball. You know, I mean, it's a lot of underneath checkdowns, but not really much of a receiving threat down the field.
Play action, and that's Shanko, the tight end, into Patriots territory to the 47-yard line and a first down.
You see Visante Shanko off the play action, which is setting things up nicely because they're running the ball so well with Peterson, or at least getting a number of carries, that it's opening up those middle areas. And I think Moss, watching his body language, he said he needed to be patient coming into this game, and he really has been.
Play action again. Trying to bring it back with one hand was Shanko. Second down and 10.
You know, and that is what really got lost coming into this game was Randy Moss coming home. You know, and I know that he was looking forward to playing in this game, and we had a chance to visit with Randy a couple of weeks ago, getting ready for the game right after he had been traded to the Minnesota Vikings, and asked if he was surprised by it, and he said, no. I really kind of smelled it in the air. You know, he knew that his days in New England were numbered and that he would not sign the big contract that he was looking for.
Quick slant catch made by Randy Moss, so there's his first catch of the day. You know, you got to give a lot of credit to both the New England Patriots and Moss. Moss never said anything bad about New England. In fact, a lot of good things about his relationship with Tom Brady. Robert Kraft, in fact, before the game, went over and made it a point to shake hands and visit with Randy Moss. A lot of times those things get ugly. It didn't this time.
Well, nor should it have. The Patriots gave Moss an opportunity. I mean, he became a Hall of Fame player while he was with the Patriots. When he was at Oakland, there were a lot of people thought his career was over.
Fake it to Harvin. And Favre throws to Peterson out of the backfield, and he's down to the 12-yard line. Make it the 13-yard line, but it's a first down, Minnesota.
Now, Peterson just kept the play alive, and it looked initially like Favre might try to keep it and pick up some extra yardage on the ground, but he saw Peterson down the field. Not sure Peterson had to jump to catch that one, but that was a nice gain. So even though you come into the game saying, hey, we're not really going to get Favre outside of the pocket, we've seen now a couple of times him do just that.
25-yard completion. They hand it to Peterson, and he loses one. Tully Banta-Cain on the stop along with Gerard Mayo.
And this is kind of the question about this New England defense, because the Vikings have put together another good drive. And even though the Patriots haven't given up a lot of big plays throughout this season, they have given up a lot of yardage. And teams have been able to drive the football against them. And that becomes the question as to how good this team's going to be for this season. Are they good enough on this side of the ball to do what ultimately they'd like to do?
Screen to Peterson. Tripped up by Sanders and then finished off by Mayo down to the 5-yard line. Here we go again, another third down and a yard.
We see the screenplay there to Adrian Peterson, and that's an element of this offense that we've not seen as much of that we saw in previous years, because Chester Taylor was that guy who was so good, and there's so much timing that goes into running the screenplay effectively. It's not just turning defensive linemen loose and then getting offensive linemen out in front. There's a lot more to it. And I know they've been trying to work more of that play with Adrian Peterson.
Third down and 2. Too high on the pass, intended for Berrien. So out comes the field goal unit.
Yeah, late. Phil Lodeholt, he gives up the pressure. Tully Banta-Cain, he's their best pass rusher and has been for the last couple of seasons, and he's the guy who's able to get the hit late. Not much separation there with Bernard Berrien. James Sanders doing a good job in coverage.
Ryan Longwell has been perfect so far this year. And it's still perfect. Opening drive of the second half. Favre and the Vikings march down the field and take a 3-point lead. (10-7) Minnesota in front. Patriots will get the football for the first time in this second stanza. As Longwell puts a foot on it, Brandon Tate has returned a pair of kickoffs for touchdowns this season, and both have come in the second half. But not here. Great coverage by Minnesota. Heath Farwell, a Pro Bowler a season ago, running down Tate. The punter, Zoltan Mesko, wears number 14 now, but for Patriot fans, they'll always remember 14. Our Then and Now segment, Steve Grogan, a quarterback of the Patriots for 16 years. And we talked about that 85 season. He replaced the injured starter, Tony Eason, led him to a Super Bowl, and now Troy Aikman, he owns Grogan Marciano Sporting Goods in Mansfield, Massachusetts, and has for 16 years.
16 years of playing quarterback in the National Football League, a long time. I actually thought he had played longer. I grew up watching him all those years.
First down catch by Rob Gronkowski, and he is shot down by Mediu Williams.
These throwback uniforms that we're seeing the Patriots wear here today, I like this look. Of course, that's what we saw Steve Grogan wearing when he was playing. But boy, I think it's a clean look. I like what they've got on there.
With a delay to Green Ellis, and he's up to the 34-yard line. That's a first down.
You look at New England offensively and kind of how their year's gone so far. They're only ranked 19th in the league coming into this game, but they're number 1 in scoring. They're 3rd in the league protecting the ball, and then they're also 3rd in the league on third down, which are all pretty important things, especially scoring. The scoring, however, is a little misleading because they've led the league with 5 touchdowns coming from special teams, as you said, Brandon Tate. They also had an interception return for a touchdown.
Jared Allen tracking down Brady, and Tom just threw it away.
I know that the way that this season has gone so far offensively has been somewhat frustrating for Tom Brady, as he has to unload that one because of the pressure by Jared Allen. But it seems like every other week they show up. There's 3 times this year this offense has been held under 300 yards of offense, which is pretty incredible that they haven't been able to be more productive. The other 3 games, they're averaging over 400 yards of offense, so it's kind of been hit or miss each week when they've shown up to play.
Brady looking around, escapes trouble, throws, caught by Tate with a man to beat. Touchdown, Brandon Tate.
Well, first of all, you're going to see the safety here work to the middle. So you've got one-on-one on the outside with Asher Allen, but it's because of Brady keeping this play alive. There's no reason for Asher Allen to believe that the ball's still going to be in his hands. There he is there, and then it's just a scramble drill at that point by Brandon Tate. Allen thinks he's in great position. Tate goes deep, and Brady finds him for the touchdown.
Gostowski's point after is good. Longest pass play by the Patriots this season, 65 yards to the former North Carolina Tar Heel, Brandon Tate. Brandon Tate, a 65-yard touchdown reception, giving New England its first lead of the game at 14-10. Wynn really holds up that kick, and Harvin in a dead sprint to come and get it. And Harvin up to the 41-yard line. So good field position for Minnesota. But certainly the Minutemen loving this by the Rockets' red glare from Brandon Tate. Things beginning to heat up here in the third quarter. Favre and Brady, the two of the three winningest quarterbacks over the last decade plus in the NFL. Joined, of course, by Peyton Manning in Indianapolis. First down, Favre. Looking for Percy Harvin deep. Incomplete. Outstanding coverage by the rookie Devin McCourty. Had help from Brandon Merriweather.
Well, Favre saw Brandon Spikes on the blitz, and so he checked to the deep route and trying to get the ball down the field to Percy Harvin. Great coverage there by Devin McCourty, the rookie, and had an opportunity to come down with a second interception in consecutive weeks. He goes down a little bit slow after that. He was slow to get up. When you take a look here at the passing by distance, that was just the second pass that Favre has attempted beyond 20 yards.
The other he completed to Adrian Peterson, who gets the ball on second down and 10. Minnesota trailing midway through this third quarter. 14-10 on a 65-yard pass and catch for a touchdown to Brandon Tate.
You look at the game that Brett Favre is having here tonight, and at least statistically speaking, and I think otherwise as well, it's the best game that he's had this year, which goes back to what I said coming into the game. Hurt or not, I wouldn't bet against number 4.
Flag down. Walt Anderson, our referee.
Ball start. Number 71, offense. 5-yard penalty. Still third down.
That has plagued Minnesota this entire year, and in particular, that line, 13th false start.
He's had some untimely penalties, including last week against the Green Bay Packers when he got the face mask penalty. Of course, he got a pretty stiff fine this past week handed down to him by the league office as a result of that penalty.
3rd and 11. Right by where they needed to get for a first down. Needed to get to the New England 49, and boy, is this going to be close.
When you get that close for the first down, oftentimes you got to go a certain distance, but I've always said that as a receiver, when you get to that point, you got to take it just a little bit further so that when you come back to the ball, you catch that, and then you're well beyond the first down chains.
Oh my. On a 4th down and a couple of inches, what will Brad Childress do here? His team trailing 14-10. He says we're punting.
Yeah, there's not a decision to be made here. I think going for it on 4th down for the touchdown there in the first half, I agreed with the call. That's one that you could go either way. But right here, this early in the game, I don't think there's any question you've got to punt this one away.
Clock winding down to the 6:30 mark. They may take the delay of game here and give Kluwe a few extra yards to work with. Perhaps not. Down to 10. Walker signals for the fair catch and juggled the football. Was able to bring it back in. and took a hit from Frank Walker. That wind is starting to become a factor here in New England. Tom Brady and the Vikings with the football. Brady has hit on 10 of 16. The running game has pretty much been null and void for the Patriots. And they'll throw on first down. And Brady pitching a tent back there. Couldn't find an open receiver. And certainly had enough time. Take a look ahead to Week 9 in the National Football League. It all begins with a Ford Fox NFL Sunday pregame show brought to you by the all-new Ford F-150, built Ford tough. You'll be back with your partner, Joe Buck. Giants in Seattle next week.
Yeah, looking forward to that trip to Seattle as we take a look here at Jared Allen. And, Leslie Frazier, as I said, spent time with Jared Allen this week in the film room trying to figure out why it is that he hasn't been able to get home. But Matt Light, like last week with Chad Clifton's done a heck of a job against him.
Woodhead tackle to the 13.
And sometimes these defensive linemen, they take exception to the fact that they're judged based on how many sacks they get. You make one good play in a game and everybody will say, hey, he had a heck of a game, and he may not have, but simply because he had a sack. But in visiting with Jared Allen, he'll be the first to tell you, hey, that's what I get paid for. They expect me to get pressure on the quarterback and get there and get him on the ground, and that's what I've got to do a better job of.
Third down, they bring the house to Brady, and he still has time. And it's incomplete.
Well, and that just shows you, because that's not something that Leslie Frazier really wants to have to do. But because we saw Tom Brady back there standing in the pocket with no pressure, that in order to get something on him, then they've got to bring Chad Greenway. Good job there by Woodhead picking him up. But this secondary, we saw the play Asher Allen gave up, but that's tough duty when Tom Brady's scrambling around. But this secondary, I think, has been outstanding in this ball game, considering the amount of time that Tom Brady has had for the most part in the pocket.
Dusko from his own end zone. And the wind again just knocks that thing straight down. And right at the 50. Brett Favre goes back to work. Many wondered, would he start? He's trying to put his team back in the lead with 5 minutes to go in the third. Hey, we'd really like to welcome the men and women in uniform serving around the world, watching our telecast in 175 countries on AFN, the American Forces Network. We thank all of you for your service, and may God bless you all. And we certainly remember those who have served and will serve. Peterson runs into his own man and then breaks it to the outside for a gain of 9 on first down to the Patriots 40.
And that's what you've got to do a better job of defensively. New England does that. That's what Adrian Peterson's capable of doing. You can't lose contain on him. They did a good job of bottling him up inside, but then they didn't secure the outside edge, which allowed him then to break contain and pick up the 9 yards.
122 yards from scrimmage, 85 of those on the ground for Peterson. Play fake, and Favre had it in and out of the hands of Harvin, and then intercepted by McCourty, who races down the sideline. And a drop ball, it appeared, by Percy Harvin.
That was an excellent route by Percy Harvin. The ball just got away. I think it has more to do with the wind that they're fighting throwing the ball. But you see a heck of a play there by Devin McCourty. It didn't so much bounce out of his arm as what it looked like Devin McCourty just slapped it out and then was able to take it. Take a better look at it right here, but he got the separation, ball behind him, and McCourty just kind of snatches it right away from him. That's a heck of a play there by the young rookie. You see Favre going down, trying to beat Ginger there with the left ankle. Jeff Dugan doing a heck of a job of chasing McCourty down, but a ball that just got away from Favre a little bit, and that's what ultimately led to the interception.
First down carry for Green Ellis. And his best run of the afternoon takes it to the Minnesota 26. Favre rolling over top of Dugan on top of that left ankle. But appear to be fine coming off the field. Patriots in hurry-up mode. Green Ellis for 3.
Of course, Devin McCourty, he's the rookie. A lot of people thought back in April that the Patriots should have drafted a pass rusher, but Bill Belichick went with Devin McCourty. He said he liked him as a 4-down guy, meaning he can help out on special teams. Came out of the game after he landed on the ball on the previous possession. He said the first thing Bill Belichick told him when he got drafted and showed up in New England is, "We have no cover corners here. You will tackle."
Woodhead, a first down to the 13.
I like this Danny Woodhead. He's listed at 5'9". I think he's more like 5'7" or 5'8", but you know, he's a heck of a player. He's a dynamic guy that, you know, if you use him properly, he can do some nice things, and they've been able to do that here in New England. And with Kevin Falk going down, he's been a nice guy to bring in and use within the passing game coming out of the backfield, because without him on the roster, they really don't have that type of player with Falk out of the lineup.
Back to Green Ellis to the end zone.
Good job of blocking up front. Stephen Neal, the right guard. You're going to see him pull around, and Algie Crumpler does a good job as well, and that's what secures the lane then for Green Ellis.
5th consecutive game with a rushing touchdown for the 3rd year back on Ole Miss. The point after is good, so after the interception, the Patriots don't fool around. They tack on 7 more to this 3rd quarter lead. Much has been made about the relationship between Brett Favre and Brad Childress. It's been a rough week overall for Childress when you consider the fact that he got slapped with a $35,000 fine from the NFL after berating the officials. And I got to be honest with you, I think he had a very good case in the game last week against Green Bay. But having said all that, not only did he publicly berate the officials, but then he, leaked some of the information in a private conversation after the league told him they had the call wrong on the touchdown of Schenko. Short kick and a fair catch by Kleinsasser at the 29-yard line with New England in front 21-10. Well, a week from tonight, Halloween isn't over until the Simpsons say it's over. The all-new Treehouse of Horror. And Hungry as Homer, the episode you've been waiting for, finally here. Simpsons Treehouse of Horror, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 1 week from tonight, only on Fox.
Brad Childress wasn't the only one to undress the officials. They had the conference call during the week, reprimanded by the commissioner of the league. Those officials overall have had a tough year.
Peterson tries to spin away from a would-be tackler, but there to make the stop is Ron Brace. Brace grew up just over in Springfield, Massachusetts. Played collegiately at Boston College.
Yeah, Ron Brace, he came in as a second-round pick and last year, and a guy they expect some pretty good things from, and came in out of shape and didn't make the conditioning test, and they're hoping now that he'll begin to play to the level that they expected all along.
Peterson up to the 37-yard line.
Well, it hasn't been the day that Randy Moss expected coming back to New England, but there's a reason for that. They've done a lot of different things, New England has, to keep him from getting the ball. He's just gotten one reception on a short pass, but you see the various looks that he's going to get. And he anticipated that coming into the game, but they just haven't been able to find ways to give him a chance. And I know that Brett Favre is wanting to, and he'd like to give him a chance down the field, but you just can't throw it into coverage, especially when Percy Harvins has been able to work the things underneath the way that he has.
Favre trying to get some momentum back and get a first down. It doesn't look like Shenko got there. Ninkovich wrapped him up and appeared to deny Shenko first down yardage. What a play there by Ninkovich.
Yeah, I think Shenko was thinking that Ninkovich would overrun him and that he would come underneath him for the first down. And in hindsight, he would have had a better opportunity had he have caught it and then just turned up the field and picked up the first down that way. But a heck of a play there by Ninkovich.
Julian Edelman set to bring back this Kluwe punt when the former college quarterback from Kent State is dropped in his track to the 9-yard line. Frank Walker on the coverage. Well, we talked about since Robert Kraft bought this franchise, and the success has just been, well, it's been amazing. Back in 1994, since then, they've won an NFL best 3 Super Bowls, an NFL high 5 conference championship. They played 25 playoff games and won 17 of them, both playoff highs. And of course, he's a lifelong Bostonian. And we talked about Randy Moss, since leaving, has had nothing but good things to say about New England. And Robert Kraft coming over to visit with him before the game.
Well, and Randy Moss, along with all these other players, they appreciate the ownership that Bob Kraft has provided.
Woodhead makes a catch on what will be the final play of the third quarter. The Patriots have opened a 21-10 lead, and Fox NFL Sunday will return after these messages and a word from your local Fox station. Well, as we're set to begin the fourth quarter, it doesn't feel like 44 degrees. That wind has really kicked up, and it could be a factor before this thing's over.
Absolutely.
Second down carry, good enough for a first down.
Yeah, the one thing about it, Tom, was Minnesota had the wind at their back there in that third quarter, and they just failed to take advantage of it. And, it's blowing pretty good. We've seen it on the kickoffs. We've seen it on the punts. Now New England has the wind at their back, but it will be hard for Minnesota to drive the ball for Favre to into this wind the way it's blowing tonight.
Juggled by Gronkowski, incomplete second down.
Race in October.
Woodhead getting lost among some of the big bodies in there. A short gain brings up a third down, and here we are, a minute into the fourth quarter. Yeah, there's a lot of time left, but if Minnesota wants to try and get back in this thing, they need stops in a hurry.
Well, they got to get pressure here like we talked about. We focus on Jared Allen not having had a sack, this being his 5th game without one. This defense, this is their 3rd game, the defense in general without a sack. So that's contrary to what this defense is about or has been about.
Aaron Hernandez across midfield and a first down for the Patriots.
Well, they almost got there, Jared Allen, but almost just isn't good enough. Matt Light has him. You see Aaron Hernandez, he's in the backfield, and they run a natural pick there, and that's why Hernandez was as open as he was. They run him from out in the backfield, and they're unable to get, looked like it was Asher Allen, that they were trying to line up on him, but he got caught up in the wash, and Aaron Hernandez makes his first catch of the game.
And of course, he is New England's 2nd leading receiver. In terms of receptions, he is their leader in receiving yards in his first year.
We'll take another look at it and see, and what you're going to see is Aaron Hernandez here, but Looks like that might be Antoine Winfield that got, yeah, Antoine Winfield was the one who was in coverage, and he runs into Asher Allen because Asher Allen was covering the man who was running the slant route. You know, Aaron Hernandez, you're right. I mean, he's off to a great start for his rookie season, and he's been their big play guy. He leads the team in yards per catch.
Woodhead ran into his own man. And right in the back of Stephen Neal, who's following our game. The OT presented by Lowe's. And then we'll join Joe Buck, Tim McCarver, Ken Rosenthal, and the entire crew for Game 4 of the World Series from the ballpark in Arlington, Texas. Rangers trying to even the World Series at 2 games apiece. Hernandez makes the reception, but is short of a first down, so Minnesota will get the ball back.
And Jared Allen, he's trying the speed rush around Matt Light. He just about got the ball. He swipes at it there, and had Brady have brought it back a little bit further to deliver it and wound that thing up, then Allen was there to knock it loose.
Of course, Jared Allen made the quote, said, "We've been a team of almost through the first 6 games this year." And overhead punt by Mesko. Well, Mesko has that one go out of the end zone after it was touched, but then unable to be downed inside the 10. "11 minutes to go in Foxborough, Massachusetts, and the home team in front 21-10. Favre and the Vikings from their own 20. They fake one way, roll the other, looking for Harvin down the middle. And he makes a catch right at the 50. Took a vicious hit from Sanders, but hangs on to the football.
That's a heck of a throw by Brett Favre. First, take a look at Percy Harvin. We've seen him exploit this area a couple of times off play action, get the linebackers to bite. And Favre, you know, he's moving well enough to at least get him out, move the pocket, set him up. But that was a ball that had to carry Gary Guyton, number 59, and then drop it in front of the safety. A perfectly thrown pass.
Gain of 30. Slant to Berrien. Is that a fumble? No, an incomplete pass. Well, that's a catch Berrien's got to make. He's not had much playing time this year.
Yeah, and if you want to get the ball thrown to you more, then you've got to be able to haul that one in. And Bernard Berrien, a couple of years ago, he was the big play threat down the field, one of the first guys signed when Brad Childress became the head coach. And, you know, since that first year here, his role is kind of diminished. And this year he's more of an afterthought. Of course, when you bring in Randy Moss, you've got to get him on the field. But Bernard Berrien has just not had a lot of opportunities, but you got to catch the ball when you get them.
Well, I believe New England called a timeout. Bill Belichick appeared to be pulling up his pants leg to be looking for that red flag over on the sideline to challenge it. He couldn't find it in time.
This is the first charged timeout, New England.
There's the flag, but he didn't throw it. That's a problem for all of us. You hide something, you got to remember where you put it. After the timeout by New England, 2nd down and 10 for Favre and the Vikings. Set up a screen, but it didn't work all too well.
Yeah, I think you go back and you look at this Berrien play, and Belichick initially was going to throw the challenge flag and say that Berrien had possession of the ball and it was a fumble, and then it was clearly recovered by Gerard Mayo, but that's a play that cannot be challenged. The only thing that could have been challenged was if, in fact, it had been a catch, and not if it was a catch fumble. There was no way that New England would have been able to get the ball.
All right, 3rd and 10. Toby Gerhart wide open. And still on his feet. And he's down to the 30-yard line. That's a 20-yard gain on 3rd and 10. As we're under 10 minutes to go, but Minnesota on the move.
Well, and you're going to see why it's a 15-yard gain, because Merriweather, you see him, look how deep he is right here, and that's because of the Moss factor. They don't want to give up the big play, and he's going to be the first guy to make contact on Toby Gerhart, but by the time he gets there, yeah, Gerhart's already traveled 15 yards. Now, I have never seen a safety play that deep in the NFL in all these years.
Across the middle to Adrian Peterson. Takes on the hit from Kyle Arrington along with Mayo. That'll be a gain of close to 9.
Well, Adrian Peterson, I mean, he's shaking that right arm right there. And, you know, most running backs at the end of a play like that would just go out of bounds. And I'm curious to see how many years this guy plays, because he is such a physical runner after he gets the ball in his hands, and he never shies from contact.
Well, they spot it at the 23. So it was a gain of 7. Play clock, they just get it off. Blitz coming. And Favre throws incomplete. That did clear the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, but I don't know that he was out of the pocket. I'm surprised that they didn't throw the flag there. I didn't see anybody in the area. They're talking about it right now. And there's the flag.
Yep.
But you see that he's definitely within the pocket, and then he gets pressure there by Dane Fletcher.
Number 4. The 10-yard penalty and the loss of down. 4th down.
You know, you don't lose anything. I think people look at that and say, gosh, why do you do it? But, well, if you don't do it, you're going to take a sack anyway, so you might as well try it and see if you can get away with it.
So it's a 3rd down and 13. It's a huge play for Minnesota to try and get closer with 8:31 to play. Jailbreak coming. Favre looking for Randy Moss, and that's a flag against the defender, Brandon Merriweather. Spot of the foul will be the 8-yard line. 1st and goal upcoming.
They brought an all-out blitz. This time they bring Devin McCourty in one-on-one with Merriweather. That's the first time today that they've shown one-on-one coverage, and they've got him matched up on a safety. And, you know, it was actually a smart play by Merriweather, because that was going to be a touchdown. Favre laid it up perfectly, and Moss was going to go get it. And, you know, once Merriweather saw that he was running a go route as opposed to a hitch or something of that nature on a hot route, then that was a smart play on his part, just getting the PI and not giving up the touchdown.
All right, 1st and goal. They'll spot it at the 9. Batted away and played perfectly on defense by McCourty.
Well, you're right, Devin McCourty, he's on Greg Lewis there in the slot, and he's in a great position. And I'll tell you, Tom, we had a chance to talk with Devin McCourty, and well, what an impressive young man he is. And you could see why he's a Bill Belichick type of guy. You know, bright-eyed, smart. He's a complete player.
Peterson with a catch inside the 5. I was starting to say, here you are, some of the most critical offensive plays of the game. And Percy Harvin standing next to Brad Childress over there on the sideline. I mean, he's been the playmaker in this game next to Peterson. And now Harvin back in on a 3rd down and goal. Harvin in the slot. Through the hands of Randy Moss. And a flag is down. And so is Favre. And just trying to get him off the deck is Steve Hutchinson. 41 years old.
Illegal contact, number 24, defense. Half the distance to the goal, first down.
Playing with a broken bone in his ankle, broken bone in his heel. Tavares Jackson will start to crank it up. But Favre will get up.
Well, Steve Hutchinson, Myron Pryor is the one who comes in and puts the lick on Favre, and he was able to beat Steve Hutchinson, the all-pro left guard. Got a pretty good move and a clean shot. Right on Favre.
He is clearly shaken up badly. Up under his chin. You know, people can say a lot of things, and you know, they talk about coming out of retirement and all that stuff. You're looking at a 41-year-old man who's playing a game with the biggest, strongest, fastest athletes in the world that are trying to hit him on every play.
Well, he had a good look at it, and you see him come in with the helmet there, and you saw Favre grabbing his jaw. I think that's where, you know, you're right under the chin. You hate to try to speculate as to what it might be, but there's certainly blood on the chin. And whether or not he broke it or what exactly happened, but looked like Belichick's upset with the penalty, you know, on the throw. And you're going to see, here's Harvin trying to work the slot. There was a hold right there. And that was on Jonathan Wilhite against Percy Harvin. And that was a good call.
So here's Tavares Jackson, who's playing for the first time this season. Jackson, a one-time starter. And his very first pass is a touchdown pass. Nafahu Tahi. And a point after away, or do they think about going for two? They probably should here with 7:26 to go. A two-point conversion brings it within a field goal.
Well, Nafahu Tahi, he just comes out into the flat, and they just turned him loose. There was a bust there in the linebacker level that allowed him to get as open as he was. And, yeah, no doubt, you come in here now, you know, an extra point doesn't help you much, and you've got to get the two-point conversion to cut it to 3 points as we, you know, see Favre, you know, clearly with the shot underneath the face mask into the chin.
So now the two-point conversion to try and make this a 3-point game. So Tavares Jackson.
I think they'd roll him out, Tom.
Jump ball in the corner. Harvin, did he get it? He did. What a play by Percy Harvin. I mean, step for step with him is Wilhite.
Well, and it was a ball that was, you know, just where Percy Harvin could make a play on it, but a great job of bringing it in because Wilhite was right there.
Back in Foxborough, Massachusetts on this Halloween night. And Brett Favre in tremendous pain. Taken off on a cart. Eyes closed. Compression on the chin. They never speculated about anything, but Troy Aikman, you know all about getting blasted in your chin. How many, 40 stitches through the years?
Every time I got touched, it split open, yeah. But the thing that I would be concerned about with Favre is that we never saw him open his mouth. You know, he never talked, never moved his mouth at all after that hit.
Great coverage. Jamarcus Sanford getting down there to make the stop. Let's go back to the hit on Brett Favre.
Yeah, there's Steve Hutchinson right there at left guard. Myron Pryor, you see the move that he puts on Hutchinson, and that's a pretty clean shot there on Favre, as we saw. You know, nothing really illegal about it. He came in, initial contact was in the chest, but you know, when you're tackling a quarterback like that, invariably the helmet then rides up the shoulder pads under the chin. And having been the recipient of those types of hits for a lot of years, that's not fun.
First down. Green Ellis Nearly broke at the distance. A saving tackle by Chris Cook.
Ben Jarvis Green Ellis, he's not real flashy. He's just pretty steady, a downhill runner. Started this season pretty low on the depth chart, has worked his way up because of injury, but he's also been a pretty good runner when given the opportunity, and now he's the man.
Couple of missed tackles as Minnesota tries to strip the football rather than just make stops. And that's a gain of almost 10 for Green Ellis.
Yeah, this defense, I think the play of the offense for Minnesota through the first 6 games has given this defense a little bit of a pass. So many times talk about the points that have been given up, and even the interception that they had that Favre threw, there's nothing in the playbook that says then you got to give up a touchdown, which is what they did.
A lot of movement along that line.
False start, number 76, offense. 5-yard penalty, still second down.
It's Sebastian Vollmer.
Yeah, New England didn't like that. You saw all those guys, the big guys up front clapping. They went with a hard count, Tom Brady did, to try to draw Minnesota off sides. And I don't know, I didn't see a lot there by Sebastian Vollmer.
Well, 2nd and 1 becomes a 2nd and 6 as we're closing in on 5:40 to play. This becomes the single biggest defensive series of the game for the Vikings. Trying to get the ball back. Incomplete.
Well, you see Wes Welker get out. They tackled him. Ben Lieber and Wes Welker's wondering, you have got to be kidding me. Take a look at this. He's waiting on the ball, and then Lieber definitely made contact with him before the ball arrived. I think Wes Welker, he's been so good. He's averaged well over 100 receptions each of the 3 years he's been here, and 1,100 yards receiving. But a lot of them have been those crossing routes, and now linebackers each and every week are looking him up.
3rd down and 6. First down. And it's Walker.
Well, you talk about competitive guys. Wes Welker, he's about as competitive as they come. A heck of a player, and what he's been able to do, and a Pro Bowl guy. Remarkable that he came back as quickly as he did, blowing out his knee last year, the last game of the season, and he worked his tail off to get back out on the field this year. I know Tom Brady was glad that he did.
First down, they'll give it to Green Ellis. And he's dropped for a 2-yard loss. Minnesota has 3 timeouts remaining. And it looks like the Vikings, are they going to take one here? No. Clock continues to run. The OT presented by Lowe's follows this one from Foxborough, and then on we go to Arlington, Texas for Game 4 of the World Series between the Giants and the Rangers. Word we're getting is a lacerated chin on Brett Favre. His return questionable.
51. Washington 56. Help it. Alpha. No.
They just do get it off. In and out of the hands of Welker. So another 3rd down upcoming with 4:02 to play and a 3-point spread. Told you the last 2 games, not a single sack from a team which led the NFL in that category a season ago, and you see never has a Vikings defense gone 3 straight games without a sack.
It's just hard to explain. I mean, you've got Ray Edwards and Jared Allen and Kevin Williams. And I think Brian Robinson is a heck of a player as well. That's a good group not to be getting more pressure than they've been able to get, but a big 3rd down right here.
Big time pressure to Woodhead, and he escapes a tackle and has a first down. Able to break through the reach of Asher Allen, and a huge third down conversion for the Patriots.
And that's a huge broken tackle there, and Asher Allen was in a great position. The Minnesota Vikings, they brought the linebackers. That left some space, but you got to make that play.
Timeout taken by Minnesota. It should be 2 timeouts remaining. There you see one of them disappearing. 3:43 to go, and Green Ellis chewing up yards in time. A gain of 5. Well, many wondered, would Brett Favre start after breaking a bone in his ankle, another in his heel. Made his 292nd consecutive start. Played a good game here tonight. Peterson ran the ball very, very well, but a couple of scoring drives for New England to open up an 11-point lead, which is now down to 3.
Yeah, and now the story right now is Favre's situation and him leaving the game, and assuming that they do get the ball back, how prepared is Tavares Jackson if there's time on the clock in order to get him down the field? This was impressive coming in off the bench, his first play, and he throws the touchdown pass then to Tahi, and then he comes back off of that, throws the 2-point conversion to Percy Harvin, but has not gotten a lot of reps since training camp, I'm sure, on the 2-minute no-huddle situation. I'm sure he's going over that on the sidelines there somewhere.
Minnesota with 1 timeout left. And that's a first down carry by Green Ellis. Algie Crumpler, a big block to spring him loose.
Well, that left side just collapses the middle, and then Algie Crumpler, he's the guy who kind of cleans it up. Watch the blocks here, and then Crumpler with the kick out, and then that's what creates the space. It's just working in tandem right there by that offensive line, and then Matt Light also. And Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis, he's, like I said, he's not a real flashy guy, and sometimes that's good because sometimes you get someone who's pretty dynamic and wanting to break big plays every time they get the ball in their hands. They're running backs that then will lose a lot of yardage from time to time, but he's not one of those guys. Rarely do you see him take losses when he's running the football, and so that's something that you can build on and then depend on.
10th play of this drive after Minnesota scored a touchdown, converted on a 2-point conversion to get within 3. And now Green Ellis sniffing the end zone. And is just short. Run out of bounds at the 1-yard line. And now Ray Edwards having a hard time getting back on his feet.
That's just poor defense right here by Minnesota, because whether it be Jared Allen or Chad Greenway, one of those 2 guys had outside contain. You've got to be able to turn that then back inside. And Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis just had a clean run there around that left side.
Second career 100-yard rushing game for Green Ellis. He had 4 carries for a total of 4 yards in the first half. Here in the second half, 12 rushes, 106 yards, and a touchdown. Well, you're talking about a young man who was a college free agent coming out of Ole Miss his first 2 years in the league. He had a total of 100 carries for not even 400 yards. And, after the injuries early on to Fred Taylor, the trade of Lawrence Maroney, Kevin Falk getting hurt, he's become their meat and potatoes guy.
Well, it was a long journey. I mean, there were a lot of bodies, as you said, ahead of him coming into this year.
Brady will chew up a little bit more clock. This will take us down to the 2-minute warning. Minnesota out of timeouts.
Well, but this is big right here. And this third down right here, if Minnesota's able to hold them and keep this to a one-possession game, this is huge. I mean, when Ben Jarvis Green Ellis got it down to where he did, it was just a foregone conclusion they were going to punch this thing in and then turn it back into a 10-point game. But, this now becomes a huge third down.
So we have reached the 2-minute warning. A 3-point Patriots advantage. 2-minute warning, 3rd and goal. Bill Belichick and the Patriots leading 21-18. Same personnel we saw in the last play on the quarterback keeper. And this time they give it to Green Ellis, and it's a touchdown.
You got Dan Connolly leading the way. Well, it's close right there. I think he did get in for the touchdown, but Dan Connolly, who typically is left guard, he lead blocks for Green Ellis.
I think the booth is going to review this. I think we have to keep an eye on here is the elbow of Green Ellis. Did it touch the ground before then his legs came flying through in somersault form to bring the ball over the plane into the end zone? Watch the elbow and whether it was down.
Well, the left elbow, you're right, Tom. The left elbow did hit the ground. I didn't see that initially when he was cartwheeling. I didn't think that he had hit the ground, so he then lands on a body and rolls in. But where is the ball then when the elbow hits? Now remember, they can piece all this together and try to determine the elbow's down there, and I'm not so sure that the ball's in, but because his body, his torso then is blocking a view of the ball, I'm not sure there's anything there to where they can overturn that.
It certainly looked like his elbow made contact before that ball broke the plane of the end zone. Let's check in with a former head of NFL officials now in our Fox Command Center, Mike Pereira. Mike, what do you think here?
Well, I think clearly the elbow does hit down, but that shot down the line, what happens is you can't see where the ball is when the elbow actually will hit. And you piece the two together. And again, I just don't think there's anything conclusive that you can change. Now, the elbow is going to hit somewhere right there, but where's the ball? You never see it. It's kind of down by his hip. To me, this is one of those, again, the ruling on the field was touchdown. I don't think you change that. I think it's too tough to change.
After reviewing the play, the ruling on the field stands for touchdown.
It stands indeed. Mike Pereira, thank you. It's already getting chilly. And this one now officially close to being put on ice. Just under 2 minutes to go, but this point after would make it a 10-point lead.
Well, the Vikings had two opportunities on third down to stop them, and they failed to do it.
Well, they're getting warmed up in warmer climes for sure down in Texas. Let's check in with Kurt Menefee about the upcoming Game 4 of the World Series.
Well, Josh Hamilton and the Rangers hope that they are indeed heating up. Hamilton with that home run last night to help the Rangers get their first victory of the World Series, but Cody Ross and the Giants still have a 2-1 lead. Game 4 of the series comes your way after the OT, which follows your game. Tom, Troy, Pat.
All right, Kurt, thank you very much. Green Bay with a huge win earlier today over the Jets, which, if New England takes a look, at the AFC East tomorrow, New England will have the best record in the NFL, a half game better than the Steelers.
How about that? How about that for a team that came into this season supposedly in a year of transition, and you look at the draft class this year and the impact that those players have had. And then you look at the fact they trade Randy Moss, they traded Richard Seymour and got those picks. They've got 2 1s, 2 2s, and 2 3s in next year's draft. I think the New England Patriots are going to be around for another 5 or 10 years.
Well, we came in talking so much the entire week And even before the game today about Brett Favre, he played a good game here today. 22 of 32 for 259 yards. You really can't blame him for the lone interception.
Yeah, the interception that he had, it wasn't a well-thrown ball, but it's not a pass that you expect to have intercepted. I thought he came in and, as you would expect and as we've seen over the years, it seems like whenever you start to count him out, he comes out and has a heck of a performance. I thought he played well today also. I'll be curious. I think that chin is more than just a lacerated chin.
Tavares Jackson in the grasp of Mike Wright, and for Wright, that is a sack in 4 consecutive games. First Patriot to do that since Seymour, who you just mentioned back in 2008.
Well, Mike Wright's one of those guys that you just love having as a teammate. He plays hard every down, knows his role, and he's good at it.
Tavares Jackson on the run, still on his feet, up to the 43-yard line. Down to a minute 15. Our game today produced by Richie Zions and directed by Rich Russo. Jake Jolivet, our associate director, and our broadcast associates Rich Gross and Bentley Elliott. Our technical producer Joe Stevens and our technical director Colby Bourgeois. Troy, I'd like to thank you and the entire crew for all your hospitality. It's been fun sitting in for your regular partner Joe Buck, who of course will be back following the conclusion of the World Series this coming week, and you'll be back together again in Seattle. I'll make my way back with my regular partner Brian Billick.
Well, it's been a good 3 weeks, and we appreciate it every time when you come out. And I guess they're in Texas with Joe. The Rangers are going to try to give them the antlers and the claw, from what I understand. We'll see if they're successful with it. Yeah, I don't know where that originated, but
start number 81, offense. By rule, inside a minute with the clock running, 10 seconds will be run. Please set the game clock to 29 seconds, and the game clock will start on my signal.
Now let me ask you a quick question. You're going to Game 5 tomorrow night. There will be a Game 5 tomorrow night. Are you going to be doing that in the stands tomorrow in Arlington?
Heck yeah.
Good for you. Why not?
I was hoping my Padres would be in there, but since they're not, I'll be pulling for the Rangers. Absolutely.
Final seconds. Incomplete to the intended receiver, Kleinsasser. We talked about the AFC East. New England, 6-1. In our meetings here on Friday, Troy, and you and I talked about it Friday night, yesterday. I've been fortunate enough to be around professional sports for a long, long time. And I can never remember grown men talking about a head football coach, or in baseball talking about a manager, or an NBA head coach, whatever it might be. But professional athletes talk with the reverence they have for Bill Belichick and how confident they are that he will take them where they want to go.
Well, he's done a heck of a job, as we all know, and what he has earned is the right for those players to listen and trust what he tells them and what it's going to take each and every week for them to be successful. And the fact that they do have that kind of confidence in him, it goes a long way in why they've been as dominant and the most winning team over the last 11 years.
Our visit with Deion Branch, who of course was here originally, went to Seattle where he played for a couple of different coaches and very much enjoyed it in Seattle, especially his days with Mike Holmgren. He said, but man, I come back here and all of a sudden Bill Belichick walks in the meeting. He's given the entire scouting report on the team they're getting ready to play.
Well, what Deion Branch came back to was, Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. And as long as the Patriots have those two guys, I think they're going to be in the hunt each and every year.
Game's final play, a completed pass to Gerhardt. And the New England Patriots go to 6-1. 28-18 the final, and certainly our thoughts are with Brett Favre. We hope that it's nothing more serious than that lacerated chin. It didn't look good. And we're back to Foxborough to wrap things up Right after these messages, Belichick and the Patriots, 10-point winners.